because I'm now going to share with you my personal stories, but this talk and this next 40 minutes is actually all about you. And this question, not in my life, but in your life. And so how this is going to work, you have some workbooks in front of you. These you get to take home this weekend. Maybe over a glass of wine, you might open it, and you might even write in it. But as I tell you my story in the next half hour, 40 minutes, if you have a notepad, and you can also write in this book, but wherever you write, I want you to start thinking about this question as it relates to you. What do you want? It's such a simple yet piercing question. It really cuts through all the bullshit when you think about it. And here's the thing. I'm going to tell you that what we're going to practice today is a practice. It's not a tool, you know. It's a practice. And the practice is as simple as when that question gets asked, whatever comes up within you, you're going to write it down. Without judgment, without question, it's going to come up in you and you're going to write it down. And so as I tell you my story, your circumstances are going to be different. Your answers to this question are going to be different. But my story might pull out of you fragments of ideas, bits of answers to this question. And what I want you to do is if something comes up within you, I want you to write it down. Okay? Don't not do it. This is the invitation, okay? So we're going to start 10 years back in my life. So this is the 10-year anniversary of my first life brief. And here was a situation in my life. 3 of my kids, this one in the middle, Ruby. So sweet. I had 3 kids under 5. I was living in Petaluma, California. My office, Goodby Silverstein & Partners, San Francisco. My biggest client that I ran, Philadelphia. My husband, working on starting his own documentary company. Okay, now I want you to guess what my home life was like. 45-minute to an hour commute, no, probably an hour 15 each way. Lot of flights to Philadelphia. After I came back to work, after a 5-month break, very generous. 3 kids under 5. Whew. I want you to really think about what that might have been like. We sweep over the details when we reflect on our careers and the highlights. We don't talk about what was happening in these moments. So I'm going to tell you what was happening in these moments. My husband and I were fighting a lot. I'm not going to mince the words. We were arguing constantly. If we weren't arguing, we were negotiating. Who's going to do the childcare? Who's going to do the birthday party? Who's done more diapers? Who's done more dishes? Who gets the business trip in 2 weeks? Or what about next week? Oh no, another big business opportunity just came up for tomorrow. How are we going to handle that? Juggling the childcare, juggling the duties. And guess who was taking on most of the household duties? Yeah? And the birthday parties, and the diapers, and the nursing. Right? Not because he didn't want to, but in many ways, I wouldn't let him because he wasn't doing it well enough, right? Anyone familiar with that? Yeah. So he was oftentimes deer in the headlights. And this was going on for months and months until one rainy Sunday in the parking lot at Whole Foods. Doing the weekly shopping trip, I was in my car and I couldn't get out. Just sitting there, listening to the rain hit the car. There was something somewhat calming about that. But I was really paralyzed. I was paralyzed to get out of the car because I found myself in a bit of despair. And what came out in that moment was what I've now come to call the unbearable questions. Wow, I married a really good man. Really good. Those are hard to come by. But what if he's not the right man for me and for this marriage and this life we've created? Whoa, we're holding a lot together. My life looks great on Facebook. Looks actually pretty perfect. They look like little nuggets, don't they? But that's not how I was feeling, right? We're holding a lot. Unbearable question number 2. What if we can't hold this? And number 3, what if the answer is no? We can't hold it. Then what happens? Well, the clouds did not part and lightning did not strike there in the parking lot of Whole Foods. As what happens when these big questions come up, you get on with your life, right? I got out of the car, went and did the groceries, went back on with the life. But once they were there, they were really out there. I had to face them eventually, maybe not that Sunday, but someday. They weren't going away, and the situation wasn't changing. About a month later, I had the opportunity to go on a business trip to LA, where I grew up, and I went to visit my parents, and I got to spend the night in my childhood home. Something happens to you when you go into your childhood home, right? Kind of become the child again. And so I sat at the kitchen table as I had, during my teen years. And there they came again, the unbearable questions. Sitting alone, 11 o'clock at night. So having been a strategist for 25 years, I did the reflex that I had done for so many clients. I wrote a brief. I don't know what compelled me to do it. It was just probably conditioning. But I just whipped out a brief around what do I really want? What actually matters? Let's scrape away all the bullshit. And here's the first thing that came up. Time. I really want time. I want time for my kids, time for my husband, and I want time for myself. Dare I say that? I want work that was lighting me up. I'd done strategy for all these years. It was great. My job was great. I was on that upward track to senior management. But how did I feel in this? I don't know. There's a lot of questions around that. We're already on the way to 3 private school educations. I could do the math without doing the math. I knew what that looked like. And you know what? I didn't want that. I want education that feeds my kids' character, who they are in the world, not just their minds, not just the academics. We were growing out of our home in Petaluma. We came there when we just had our son, Ziggy, just the 3 of us. Now there was a really cozy 5 of us, and little did I know there was going to be 6. I wanted to travel and expose ourselves to all the facets of humanity. I want to be able to take my kids and show them that that little pocket in Northern California is not the only way to live life. There are so many ways and expressions and nooks and crannies to explore. It wasn't just about travel. It was seeing all the different facets of humanity and the ways that life can play out. And we're older parents, so I really wanted to stay healthy, energized, and not worry about our ability to do that. And then last, we wanted a community that shared our values. And while we love Petaluma, California, we weren't sure that we had found that rich village. They say it takes a village. Well, these cliches exist for a reason. It's true. You need that broader network. And the last one that I didn't write down here is no financial anxiety. I want to be able to afford all of these things without having to worry about how we were going to finance these things. And that was really important. So I wrote this brief. I emailed it to my husband. Oh, where's the other one? Well, I wrote this brief, I emailed to him, and he texted back, capital Y, capital E, capital S, triple exclamations. And I was like, what? And in that moment was a moment of hope and relief. That was the first moment that he and I had of alignment in months. It was so instant and immediate, and it suddenly gave me hope that maybe we were going to open up a different path. So we got on the phone and quickly started talking. A couple things happened right then and there. When we looked back at the list, even though our lives on Facebook looked really, really good, when we went down one by one, we realized we could not check any of the 7 things on the brief. Not confidently. You know, not when you, that feeling of yes in his text, we couldn't say, yes, we have that. We feel we're rich with time. Or, yes, we have the kind of education we really want, and it makes us feel so satisfied knowing our kids are getting that sort of education, all the way down the list, 0 of 7. And it wasn't like we were asking for wild and crazy things, like, a Swiss chalet for, weekend ski trips or winter ski trips. I think these were pretty fundamental. Another thing happened. We committed to each other that we would not be the family, the when that, then this family. When you land the next client, when I get the next level promotion, then we'll go after this brief. No. Has to be right now. Right now, 2010. And then we self-awarely also made 2 promises to each other. We would not let the fear of money, or fear of lack, really, stop us from chasing this brief. And we would not be afraid to uproot and move, to go where the brief showed up, or where we found it. Those were really important commitments that we made to each other. And here's what's interesting, and what I've learned over 10 years of doing this practice. Action is a byproduct of clarity. When you get clear, a shift happens automatically, organically. I know there's a lot of planners out here, right? Type A, let's go, let's map it out. No, something really happens. A shift in your attention, then a shift in your behaviors. Because when you know what matters, suddenly you start to realign everything in your life around it. And that's what happened with us. Suddenly I was spending my free time, slivers like waiting in line, right? Laying in bed nursing, that kind of free time. Not the leisurely 4-hour brunch, a weekend over the New York Times. That was old fun, old free time. Now new free time came in slivers of 5 and 10 minutes, right? But even so, I was not lingering on Instagram. I was actually actively researching, where are the progressive public schools on the West Coast, Where are the communities that we would feel a kinship with, right? Suddenly, those little slivers of time were being spent differently. And the same thing for my husband in his own journey. And then tiny daily actions started to follow. Again, a little check-in on Craigslist, a little conversation about schools with friends in LA, where I grew up, Seattle, where he grew up, Portland, where a lot of our other friends had recently moved, and of course, all around the Bay Area. Now, rewind, so stay with me, time's gonna get a little funky here. Rewind 2 years earlier, before 2010, we had taken a vacation up in Portland, Oregon. Lots of things happened on that vacation. Just 1 week. Celebrated Isla's birthday, my number 2. That very night, found out I was pregnant with Ruby, number 3. Big surprises happening in Portland, Oregon. And every day, some part of that vacation, we wound up in the same neighborhood to get Stumptown coffee, to buy Isla's birthday cupcakes, to get pizza for the kids, to get a few groceries for the rental house we were in. And my husband kept taking us in that same neighborhood to this beautiful painted sunflower where the community had come together. It was a kind of rough around the edges community, and they painted this giant sunflower in the middle of the intersection, looked a bit like Haight Street, because they wanted it to make it more inviting for young families. And my husband just kept bringing us back to this intersection and saying, I want to do a documentary film about this community and bring it back to California and invite people in Petaluma to do things like this. And I said, great, great. This was 2 years earlier. At the same time in the journey, I had my best childhood friend was a teacher in Portland. We visited her and she said, oh, there's this public school in Portland. It's called Sunnyside Environmental School. It's so hippy-dippy. It's just like you and your family. You would love it. Great. So 2 years later, as I'm looking and doing research, I go on the website for Portland Public Schools. Just like you would expect from a public school website, nothing, nothing but gobbledygook. Couldn't tell what was special about it at all. But it was logged in my head. There it is. This is the house on the corner on that sunflower intersection, and then the school that we heard of. We wrote our brief in April. At the end of June, my husband sent me a text at work. Hey, remember that sunflower? Guess what? The house at the corner of the sunflower is available. What? Yeah, I completely remember that. Okay. Let's check the school situation. Well, let's find out more. That afternoon he wrote back, there's a school at the end of the block. It's called Sunnyside Environmental School. Huh. And both of us, bingo, I think that's our brief. 2 out of the 7 showed up. So here's what we did. We applied. We were the 4th applicant. The owner of the house was in Sweden. We sent him a box. It had our brief in the box, our wedding vows, photos of our kids, and my husband's promise to repaint that friggin' sunflower every year to keep it alive. Guess what? We got the house. We sent in 2 checks. First month, last month. And then we looked at each other and said, holy shit, we've never even been in the house. We've never even walked up to the school. Maybe we need to buy some tickets and fly to Portland, Oregon. Okay. Crazy. But we did. And when we got there, it was even better than what we had imagined. What if we could live the life we dreamed of living right now? We got up there, it was beautiful, and here, just a little clue. My design style is not Haight Street, I like Scandinavian modern, right? But here's the house I was willing to get. When we walked in the doors, guess what this house looks like on the inside? Scandinavian modern. Concrete fireplace, blonde wood, exposed piping, nothing like this photo on the outside. We went to the school. We both walked in and took different paths, meandered into the hallway. I looked at the children's art, and then we reconnected back in the cafeteria where there were banners of quotes from Anne Frank, Ben Franklin. Get a little emotional. And my husband and I both turned to each other with tears in our eyes. It was exactly the type of school we both wanted in our hearts. But then guess what? Another, oh shit moment. He said, you got to quit your job now. Oh, right. Yeah, I got to go quit my job. I'd been at this agency since 1998. All right, we made each other that promise. Wouldn't worry about the finances. We're gonna go for this brief. So we came back. I went to the agency, saw the president, Derek Robson, great man, an ally. And I said, Derek, I love this agency. It's been my family for all these years, but I gotta put my own family first. We can't afford to be in the Bay Area, so we're gonna move to Portland, Oregon. I'm gonna give you my notice, and and my love is always here. What? Why do you need to quit? What? Excuse me? He said, well, I mean, your clients in Philadelphia, they don't know where you are anyways. Shh. Yeah, why don't you just work from Portland, Oregon? And then if it doesn't work, we'll both know, and then you can quit then. And I thought, fantastic. Okay, well, this will be a good bridge because it'll last 6 months, and then I can quit, and then, this whole transition will be smooth. And that ended up being a 6-year chapter of our lives. And we had Mabel after that. So, and my husband was able to stay home because we had a California salary in Portland, Oregon, and he could step back from work, become what we call the lead parent, and we had another child. So what is a life brief? Okay, in its simplest form, it is a creative brief for your life. Since you're all in the industry, I'm gonna assume everyone knows what a creative brief is, yeah? But this is writing a creative brief. We've done it for clients. We've seen them around us. We've read them. You might be a client for them. Maybe your agency writes them for you, but doing it for your life. So it's the use of penetrating questions. Questions like, what do you really want? That cuts to the heart of it, right? Gets to the essence. And then writing, the act of writing. Because why do we write? I have a poet friend, Roger Housden, who says, like a poet would, writing rearranges the furniture of our minds. I'm going to say that again. Writing rearranges the furniture of our minds. Because here's what is so hard about just thinking what you want. One idea comes in and you get excited, and then it's overridden by another idea. It's like waves, right? One washes in, then it gets pulled out, and another wave comes over it. But writing is actually an act of commitment. It's your first act of commitment, right? Because you have to choose words. You have to choose the statement that you're going to form. So in choosing that, you are committing to what you really want, right? And then here's the beautiful thing of once it's written, it stares right back at you. And now you're in relationship with it. Because when you read it back to you, you immediately have a reaction. It's maybe like 80%, right? It's not quite what I want, but it's safe, right? You know, and it starts to connect you to this place I call our knowing place. So I tell my children, there is knowledge and then there's knowing. School's going to give you knowledge. I want life to give you knowing. And I want you to be in the practice of connecting to your knowing place. And so when you write what you want and it stares back at you, your knowing place is going to speak up. And it's going to say, well, Bonnie, not completely true. Come on, you know, and then the fears are going to come up and the doubts. You could probably write, it's okay, it's okay. It's just between me and you. It's private. Just write it down. But the writing part is hard. It's simple, it's just not easy. But it is a practice. That's what this is. The life brief is a practice of getting clear about what matters to you, what you really, really want, and then writing that down. If you want to strip it all back, that's all this is. We'll talk about more bits of it. And I'm going to say very clearly right now, it is not a plan. Some of the morning speakers talked about plans. But I'm going to tell you, I am anti-plan. Yes, our jobs require planning, so I'm not taking away from that. But when it comes to living your life, your plans are too small for you to live. Because you know what plans do? They fight your moonshot what-ifs. They fight your real honesty. Because plans are set from what I can see before me now. I can see from here to the wall, but I can't see around that corner. And I can't see what's happening down on the street right now. And as we move through life, new things show up and invite us to play or interact or respond. And our plans are built from very narrow-sighted things. Oh, okay, I can see the current ingredients, so I'm going to plan around them. Actually, life is full of surprises and serendipity and synchronicity that are unplanned. So when we live according to plan, we live small. Versus asking ourselves, what if, what do we really want? And then opening ourselves up to new ingredients, new invitations, unplanned synchronicity that then set us on a creative path to our lives. Two Stanford professors, they've written a book called Designing Your Life, kind of similar, but they define a well-designed life as one in which who you are, what you believe, and what you do all line up together. Sorry for the font. I don't work in PowerPoint. This is what happens when we convert it. But that's really the thing we're striving for, right? Where who we are, what we believe, and what we do all line up together. There's a great book out right now called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. It's fantastic. And it is about this kind of living, right? It's an intrinsic, inside-out type of living, not the first mountain life where we're living outside in. We're living by the rules and the voices that we grew up with. Our parents, our teachers, we talked about the culture in India, the Southern, don't question, you know? Be quiet, be polite, be nice. These are the extrinsic rules and values we have been given when we're living a first mountain life. But when we discover at the peak of that first mountain, this underlying hum, this suspicion that maybe we're underliving our lives, that's when we seek out the second mountain, that internal sense of joy versus external happiness. Yeah? Because in this debate, can we have it all? The super mom, the super career. I don't even really know what this means, but I'm going to tell you my belief and my experience is no, you cannot have it all. But you can have all that matters to you, not to your mom, not to your dad, not to your best friend, not to your children, not to your coworkers. As well intended as all those people are, you can have all that matters to you. The question is, do you know what matters to you? That's the life brief. It's creating space to get in touch with your knowing place, to start uncovering what matters to you. I know for some of you that sounds kind of terrifying. And I only know that because in every workshop I have taught since 2010, there has been a great handful of people who are admittedly terrified by this. And you know, we live in a always-on content culture where there's always something to pull us away from the questions, whether they are the unbearable questions or just the driving, penetrating questions. So this is a practice, an exercise to uncover this. So I'm going to ask you again, what do you want? Not what do you want to do this weekend, or what might you want for dinner? In your heart of hearts, what do you really, really want? Now, if anything has come up for you so far, even a fragment of an idea, I want you to write it down. Do yourself a favor. Don't judge it. Don't question it. Just write it down. And that are your first ingredients for this practice. David Whyte, another poet. I'm in love with poets. I did not marry one, but I do like reading them. David Whyte has a great book called The Three Marriages. And in that book, he talks about the three marriages that we all hold in our lifetimes. The first one is the most traditional marriage. And I don't mean the legal marriage, and it does not have to be heterosexual marriage. It is the marriage, the commitment we have to another person. That could be your parents, it could be your sibling, it could be your best friend, and it could be your life partner, right? The second marriage is the marriage that we have with our work. Whether that is your career, your day job, your side hustle, your vocation, your passion, whatever you want to call it. And then the third marriage is the marriage we have, and women, this is the marriage we neglect first and foremost to ourselves. And according to David Whyte, that all three marriages are non-negotiable. What does that mean? You can't ignore any of these three. Because if you decide you're going to gun it for the two and ignore one, eventually all three will come crashing down. So our life's work is to braid these three marriages together. That doesn't mean that there are chapters of your life where you're really dominating. Your time is dominated by one marriage or another marriage, but you're still holding space and intention and thought and even tiny actions for the other marriage. So in your workbooks, you'll see 4 different parts. I've added another part, which is your cause or community, right? And so the workbooks give room for you to start to brainstorm or ideate. Those are such marketing words. Just think about, start writing. These workbooks are not meant to be perfect or precious, okay? They're meant to have your wine stains, your coffee stains, your kids, your dogs all over them. I want you to get scrappy and I want you to get into them. I want you to open them. They should have creases. They should have drawings. You should cross things out. But this is a true workbook for you to start getting your ideas down. Now, how do you know when you have your life brief? How do you know? This is how you feel. Okay? It's a feeling. When it reads back to you, yes, fuck yes, this is what I want. I dare not tell a soul other than myself, but fuck yes, this is what I want. Yeah? That's what it feels like. That's when you know you have your brief. There aren't hard rules. Okay, 2015, I've been living this Portland life for 5 years now. Awesome. But the brief evolves as your life evolves. So it's not a static thing, right? It's a living thing. That's why, again, I call it a practice, not a plan. It's not like you just achieve it and tuck it away, you're done, you get a gold medal. No, life changes. In 2015, I was running some of our biggest accounts from Portland, Oregon. I had a 4-day work week. 2 of them spent in San Francisco, which meant 5 days with my kids and my family in Portland, Oregon. So I could walk them 1 block to school and come back, get my coffee, run upstairs in the same sweatpants I wore probably every day of the week, and get back and get on my first meeting, right? It was a pretty good life. It was actually a great life. But I was starting to get itchy. Because that one line on that brief about doing work that fulfills my unique purpose and strengths, that hadn't found itself. And my husband became a phenomenal lead parent, so I felt, okay, as the breadwinner, I'm ready to fly a little. You know, I want to do something different. I've been doing strategy for 25 years. So I wrote a new brief. I wrote a brief for my work. I would choose to walk a path of fulfillment, not just achievement. Somebody this morning talked about the circuitous path, right? It's not a ladder anymore, and especially for us women. I took many years off. I took a 4-day work week, right, to have my 4 kids and spend those beginning years with them. So I slowed down a little bit, right? So fulfillment, I don't want that ladder, the traditional ladder. But I also knew that status and the usual things were not what I was really seeking, because what I wanted was about how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to experience, how I wanted to show up. And I wanted fulfillment at the end of the day, not just achievement. Achievement's great, I want that too. But I more importantly wanted fulfillment. I want to do work that lights me up. I wake up and I'm like, yes. And it taps into my unique strengths. I want to serve people that I work with in meaningful ways, big and small, every day. That's part of the fulfillment package. I want to be a leader with compassion, generosity, integrity, and accountability. I wasn't sure that the male partnership at our agency, as much as I love them, really celebrated those values. But these were my values, and I wanted to see more of it in our creative agency industry. I wanted to lift people up. I knew that that was my unique superpower. Even though I was called a strategist, and I was a damn good strategist, the thing that gave me joy was the people. Activating people, showing them that they can do bigger things than they're limiting themselves from, right? There's bigger possibilities. I wanted to fuel my own curiosity and creativity, and God damn it, I want to create a string of wins that were never ending for the company and for myself. But I was a 4-day part-time worker in Portland, Oregon. How is that going to happen? Yeah? I don't know. Here's the thing with the life brief. It's not a plan. So you're not asking yourself, how is it going to happen? But I started turning towards the moments, the actions, the choices that were setting myself up to be available to this. About a month after writing that brief, I got a call from another big, iconic creative agency in another city. And they wanted to see if I had any interest in stepping out of strategy and being the chief cultural officer. And could I write the job description for that? Are you kidding me? Heck yeah. That was my dream job right there. It just showed up in my inbox. So that was 4 months. I wrote that job description. I had meetings with the CFO, the CEO, the CSO, the CCO. We had meals together. We designed. And then suddenly I started feeling like, oh, I don't think they're really serious about this. And in the end, they weren't. And after 4 months, I got the email saying, you know what, this really isn't going to happen. We can't really invest in this. We're in a client service business. We're not going to pay a C-level, non-client billable role. Oh, okay. Wow. It's not going to happen. And I was so attached to that was the path to the brief I had written, because it was all about people, all about culture. And at the top, not at the middle, but at the top. We were just about to go on Thanksgiving vacation to Taiwan, family vacation, so I said, let it go. All right. I will be a strategist. I'm going to continue the strategy job. We left, got the email, went to SFO, got on a plane, landed in Taiwan Monday morning. In my inbox, another email from a huge technology company who shall remain nameless for, would you come in and talk to us about the CSO role? So as soon as I let go and said, okay, I'm going to do strategy, suddenly, a day later, an invitation to interview for the top strategy job at a very big company. Great, okay, I'm gonna do it. I said yes. Interviewed, loved the CMO, thought we were going to, have wild dinners all the time, we were gonna be best friends. And it opened up our eyes to moving back to the Bay Area, because they were very definitive that they would not honor the commute that my agency was honoring at the time. So we said, okay, if this is real, this is going to be big. And then another call. Right after I thought, yes, we can move back to the Bay Area. I'm open to that. Even though our brief in Portland was pretty sweet, I got another call from Goodby Silverstein Partners, again, Derek Robson, our president, and said, are you sitting down, Bonnie? And I said, yes, I'm always sitting down, Derek. I'm at my desk, my home office, and he said, we would like to make you the head of strategy and a partner in the firm. What? This is a company that I've worked at for since 1998, and it was only male partners. A couple years earlier, they had one female partner, my friend Margaret Johnson, but no one else. I never even dreamed of being a partner. But my first thought, I was still in this space of defeat and self-doubt. Oh no, I wrote this brief, and being the head of strategy is going to mean doing it just like the 5 male head of strategies I've worked for in this company. It's going to be a lot of new business. It's going to be a lot of thought leadership. It's going to be la, 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 and it's never going to be about the people because they're so busy doing new business and business growth and development, it's not going to be about the people. So tug of war, tug of war, tug of war. But instead of giving in and giving up, what I found is the surprises and the synchronicity comes when you least expect it. When you can let go to your attachment of how your brief is going to show up and allow what shows up to become your brief. Now, I'm going to say that again. Let go of your attachment to how you want it to show up and open yourselves up to your brief, where you are right now becoming your brief. And I decided to chase the goosebumps. This is my advice to you when you're at a crossroad. Chase the thing that gives you goosebumps. So that big internet company job versus partner at the agency I loved. Well, the thing that gave me goosebumps, I thought another tech job will come along someday, hopefully, maybe, if I want it to. But I'll never have the experience of leading an agency that is now going to be 50-50 men and women partners. The people I have grown up with in this industry and in my career, I've seen them, they've seen me emotionally naked. They've seen me flat on my face in my lowest points. They've seen me at my highest highs, and we have a trust between us. And I don't think I'll ever get another opportunity to lead with that shared trust and admiration again. And so we said yes. And guess what? Guess what? How I would describe my job today. It's exactly the brief. But it came through strategy, not from culture. And in fact, what I learned is if you want to affect culture, there's nothing faster than doing it from the center of the company, right? Rather than the periphery. I think you can do it both ways. But being the head of strategy, when I say we're going to hire someone 4 months pregnant and give her a high six-figure salary and a full maternity leave because that's how good she is and she's worth it, everyone says yes. And so I get to do this from the unexpected place. But my limited narrative before was, no, I have to do it just like the 5 men before me. No. Stepping into that role gave me the influence to immediately instill the values, the principles, the behaviors, the policies that I felt was right and needed from the start. All right, I'm going to ask you one more time. What do you want? What do you want? Write it down if anything comes up. Okay, so I've broken it down to 3 principles. This is how it works. Get clear, know what you want. Act on what you want. Everyone you heard from today on those panels, they've been acting on what they want. And also believe that you deserve it. Don't buy into your self-doubt, your inner critic, your mama's voice, the teacher who told you you couldn't. Don't buy into that. And then let go. Do not get attached or to controlling how it unfolds. Just take tiny actions. Shift your attention, shift your action in tiny but daily ways. And allow it to unfold. Because every action you take, no matter how small, is an invitation for others to react or respond. And that's how real change happens. It's a series of actions, reactions, and interactions. And when you do that, when you know what truly matters to you, you're liberated from striving to be somewhere else or someone else. That's where fulfillment comes. Thank you very much.